Some people call you intimidating before you even say a single word. Not because you were rude, not because you were arrogant, but because your presence alone makes them uncomfortable. And if you've experienced that your entire life, being misunderstood in classrooms, at work, even around people you genuinely cared about, then you already know how confusing that feeling becomes after a while. You start questioning yourself. Am I too cold? Too distant? Too hard to read? But what if the problem was never your personality in the first place? What if people were reacting to something deeper they couldn't explain? I think a lot of introverts quietly carry this invisible experience for years, walking into rooms and instantly feeling the energy shift, watching people become more careful around them for reasons nobody can fully describe. And the strangest part is this: most introverts are not trying to dominate attention at all. They are usually the exact opposite, quite observant, emotionally controlled, but in a world addicted to noise, emotional performance, and constant validation. Someone who stays calm and grounded without needing approval can feel almost unsettling to people who depend on those things to feel secure. And honestly, I didn't fully understand this myself until I started noticing how often silence alone was enough to make people nervous around me. So in this video, we're going to break down the real psychology behind why introverts unintentionally intimidate people without even trying. And if this video resonates with you in a deep way, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because the next videos are going to help you understand parts of yourself most people will never be able to explain. And the first sign is something most people never even realize they are reacting to. Your silence feels comfortable to you, but deeply uncomfortable to everyone else. Most people cannot sit in silence for more than a few seconds without feeling pressure building internally. They start talking just to escape the awkwardness, filling space with random words, nervous laughter, forced energy. But you do something different. You stay still, you think before speaking, you don't panic when the room becomes quiet. And strangely, that alone makes people uneasy. I remember sitting across from someone once during a conversation at a cafe. There was a short pause, maybe 5 seconds. But I could physically feel them becoming anxious, tapping their fingers, avoiding eye contact, trying to restart the conversation as fast as possible. Meanwhile, I was perfectly comfortable just existing in the moment. That's when I realized something important. Silence exposes people, because when the noise disappears, insecurity becomes louder. And if you relate to this deeply, if people constantly describe you as intense, cold, or hard to read simply because you don't force conversation, that is a very strong sign your quiet presence affects people far more than you think. And once people realize your silence does not break under pressure, the second thing that starts unsettling them is your refusal to participate in emotional drama. This one confuses people even more, because in most social environments, emotional reactions are how people test control. They push, they provoke, they complain loudly. They expect you to react emotionally so they can measure your insecurity through your response. But you don't give them that reaction, not because you don't feel emotions, but because you learn that losing control usually creates more damage than solving the problem itself. I remember watching a coworker repeatedly make passive-aggressive comments towards someone quiet in the office, almost trying to pull emotion out of them publicly. But the quiet person simply looked at them calmly and said, "I'm here to work, not argue." And the entire room went silent after that, because calm energy under pressure feels powerful in a way most people cannot imitate. And if people often call you distant, intimidating, or emotionally hard to influence simply because you stay composed during conflict, that is a very strong sign your self-control quietly unsettles people around you. And after people realize they cannot pull emotional chaos out of you, the third sign begins showing itself very quickly. You ask real questions instead of performing fake conversations. Most people are used to automatic social scripts. "How are you?" "I'm good." Nobody pauses long enough to actually mean it. But you do. You naturally move past surface-level conversations because your mind wants something deeper, something honest. I remember asking someone a simple question once during a late-night conversation. "What's been emotionally exhausting you lately?" The entire energy shifted after that. They stopped smiling automatically. Their body language changed. You could almost feel them deciding whether to answer honestly or protect themselves emotionally. That's the effect deep people have on others without realizing it. Your curiosity does not feel casual to people. It feels exposing, because most individuals spend their lives hiding behind social performance. And the moment someone genuinely sees past that mask, it makes them uncomfortable. So if people often describe your conversations as intense, even when you are simply being real, comment number 7 below. That is a very strong sign your depth affects people far more deeply than your words alone. And when people start realizing your words carry depth, the fourth sign becomes even more noticeable. You stay emotionally controlled in situations where most people lose themselves completely. This is the part people misunderstand the most. Because they assume calmness means you do not care, but in reality, many introverts feel emotions more intensely than anyone around them. They simply learned how dangerous uncontrolled emotion can become once it takes over a moment. So instead of yelling, overreacting, or escalating tension, you slow yourself down internally. You think before responding. I remember being in an argument once where the other person kept getting louder with every sentence, almost waiting for me to match their anger so the conflict could explode fully. But the calmer I stayed, the more frustrated they became, and that taught me something powerful. A lot of people only feel emotionally validated when others mirror their chaos back to them. So when you remain steady under pressure, they mistake your self-control for emotional distance. And if people have ever accused you of being cold, simply because you stayed calm during emotional situations, that is a very strong sign your emotional discipline quietly intimidates the people around you. And once people realize they cannot emotionally shake you, the fifth sign starts affecting them before you even speak. You notice things other people completely miss: tiny shifts in tone, forced smiles, nervous pauses. The difference between what someone says out loud and what they are actually feeling underneath it. And the strange part is, you usually are not even trying to analyze anyone. Your mind just naturally absorbs the entire emotional atmosphere around you. I remember meeting someone who kept acting overly confident in every conversation, constantly joking, constantly loud, but underneath all of it, there was this quiet insecurity in the way they avoided eye contact whenever the conversation became genuine. And the moment I noticed it, they suddenly became uncomfortable around me without understanding why. That is what happens when people feel deeply observed. They start sensing that you see more than they intended to reveal. And honestly, that can feel terrifying to someone who spends most of their life hiding behind performance. So if people often become nervous, guarded, or strangely careful around you even when you are quiet, comment number 7 below. That is a very strong sign your awareness sees far deeper than most people are emotionally prepared for. And after people realize how deeply you observe them, the sixth sign becomes impossible to ignore. You have boundaries, and not everyone gets access to you. This is where many people completely misunderstand introverts. They assume your distance means arrogance, when really it means discernment. You do not instantly trust people just because they are friendly for 5 minutes. You watch patterns, energy, consistency. I remember meeting people who became strangely irritated simply because I did not open up immediately the way they expected. And the more they pushed for instant closeness, the more guarded I became internally. Because deep down, emotionally aware, people understand something most others ignore. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your mind, your energy, or your peace. And if people often accuse you of being hard to approach simply because you take time to trust others, that is a very strong sign your boundaries quietly intimidate the people around you. And after people realize they cannot easily access you emotionally, the final sign becomes the one that unsettles them the most. You do not need their approval to feel comfortable with yourself. This runs deeper than silence, boundaries, or emotional control. Because most social dynamics quietly depend on validation. People want reassurance, attention, acceptance. They need to feel liked in order to feel secure. But you can sit alone with your thoughts without feeling incomplete. And to someone whose self-worth depends entirely on external validation, that kind of independence feels almost threatening. I remember reaching a point in my own life where I stopped chasing approval in every room I entered. I stopped adjusting my personality just to make people comfortable around me. And strangely, the less validation I needed, the more intimidated certain people became by my presence, because confidence becomes powerful when it no longer asks permission to exist. So if you've always felt different because you genuinely do not need constant approval from others, comment number 7 below. That is a very strong sign your self-sufficiency quietly intimidates more people than you realize. And maybe after hearing all of this, you are finally starting to understand something important about yourself. Being called intimidating does not automatically mean there is something wrong with you. It does not mean you are cold, arrogant, emotionless, or broken. Sometimes it simply means your presence forces people to confront parts of themselves they usually hide behind noise, validation, and performance. I think a lot of introverts spend years shrinking themselves just to make other people feel comfortable. Talking more than they want to, smiling more than they feel, pretending to need approval they secretly outgrew a long time ago. I remember reaching a point in my own life where I became exhausted from constantly trying to appear easier for everyone around me. And honestly, the moment I stopped performing for acceptance, something inside me finally felt peaceful again. Because real confidence becomes quieter with time, not louder. It stops begging to be understood by everyone. And maybe that is the real reason your energy unsettles certain people. Not because you are trying to intimidate them, but because you no longer need permission to be yourself. So if this video made you feel understood in a way you rarely experience, make sure you subscribe to the channel and support the next videos. We are going to keep exploring the deeper psychological patterns hidden inside everyday human behavior that most people never even notice. All the voices and images in my videos are created with AI, but the editing process is completely done by me. I personally match every image with the voiceover, arrange every scene, and turn everything into a complete video. No AI or machine can replace that part. Making videos takes a lot of time and effort, so if you enjoy the content, please support the channel with a like and subscribe.